Hello, my name is Chris Shelton, and thank you for joining me. Today we're doing Qigong and Qi for diabetes and what you can do to help to prevent or possibly help to reverse the debilitating disease. Diabetes is considered an exhaustion disease. It's not just people that don't eat correctly that creates the dysfunction. And diabetes comes about when or creates a problem when the hormone has to do with the hormone insulin. And the spleen and pancreas, in Chinese medicine, we talk a lot about the spleen, but it also incorporates the pancreas. Now, your pancreas is a major organ that resides behind the stomach, and according to classical Chinese medicine, the stomach, spleen, and pancreas, they all work together. So your spleen and your pancreas would be considered the yin organ, and then the stomach would be considered the yang organ. And when there's a dysfunction of the pancreas, is normal action, and what it likes to do is it likes to take the sugar and the fat and from the food and drink that you intake, and then release it as you go on throughout your day. But if you don't eat right, then what happens is that it creates this problem with the blood sugar itself. And what's interesting about the reason why we call it an exhaustion disease is because the spleen is responsible for transforming and transporting the food and the essence and sending it up to the chest to be made into blood. So your blood is your qi. And for those of you that's brand new to Qigong, has never tried Qigong before, and wonders what qi is or what energy is, just think of it in terms of blood or fluids. In fact, we have a saying that the blood contains the qi, and the qi moves the blood around the body. So if there's an impairment of the spleen's function to transform and transport, but not only that, but then your stomach too. Your stomach is also responsible for dealing with things like rotting and ripening the food, and then transferring that rotten and ripening of the food essence, sending it up to the spleen and to the pancreas, for there is transformed and transported, mixed with the air, mixed with the energy from the kidneys up to the chest, also referred to as the Sea of Qi or Zong Qi of the chest, to where it's made into blood. And so it's a debilitating disease, and people that have this disease have to monitor the blood sugar very closely. And so it's very, very important to do things in order to help reverse the side effects and hopefully also reverse the disease itself or slow its process. And some of the things that we have to deal with when we see clients in clinic, for example, that are suffering with diabetes, is we start to see issues with clotting. We start to see issues where if they get a wound, the wound gets infected easily. And then this is where, if you're not careful, that it can create further problems and unfortunately maybe start amputating limbs. And normally when they start doing that, then it's just a progressive disease that takes its toll piece by piece. So the whole idea is to be preventative. And part of that is when we talk about being preventative, is yes, we're going to talk about diet here in a second, but here a few minutes ago, I was talking about how the stomach, spleen, and pancreas all contribute to the formation of diabetes. We talked about the diet, but I also said that diabetes is an exhaustion disease, which means that also the amount of stress that you have in your life. We see a lot of times where people who are relatively thin or appear like they look healthy are also suffering from diabetes. So sometimes it gets confusing because people will say to me, Chris, well, what is the main organ responsible for diabetes? And I'm going to say, well, your spleen and your pancreas. But also your liver plays a function. And your liver is liver and gallbladder aids in digestion as well too. It helps with digestion by secreting bile. And, I talked before about a very simple remedy in order to help kickstart your digestive system in the morning, and that is to start off with a small glass of hot water and lemon juice. And I normally do hot water with in about a 4-ounce glass. Also, I put a half a teaspoon of coconut oil in there because the coconut oil helps to break down cholesterol. And when we look at cholesterol inside the body, it's not only the cholesterol that we see in the artery walls, but it's also gallstones and kidney stones. Those are also extensions of cholesterol. But when we start talking, when we look at the disease itself, the confusing thing sometimes is if you're somebody that has a lot of anger and resentment, then this could also create or under prolonged periods of stress for long periods of time, this also can contribute to this overall exhaustion. Other things besides diet that people need to they take for granted is that they're not present while they're eating. So people should sit down while you eat, and I hear this a lot. Like, Chris, I'm way too busy. I'm always grabbing something on the way out the door, or I don't have time to eat breakfast, or I don't feel good when I eat breakfast. And if you don't feel good when you eat breakfast in the morning, then that's a sign of a dysfunction. So you need to listen to that. And I'm going to give you some remedies today, besides the hot water and lemon, in order to be able to help yourself better. So, sitting down while you're eating, being in the present while you eat, trying to avoid any negative conversations or heated conversations at the dinner table or at the breakfast table. Sitting down while you're eating, not watching TV. I mean, every once in a while I think is okay, but if you're somebody that has, like my father, who is suffering from diabetes, who has a TV never seen a room, then it's something that you need to be mindful of. So you need to be mindful while you eat. Chew, slow down and chew your food properly. The other thing that people take for granted too is to make sure that your stomach is nice and warm. Yes, some people could have the cold raw diet and their constitution thrives off of it. But some people, it actually contributes to the dysfunction itself. It actually will weaken the stomach and the spleen. You know, if you pay attention to Persian cultures, Indian cultures, or Asian cultures, a lot of times the first thing that they give you before you sit down to eat is actually tea. And the reason for that is to warm the stomach. Now, when people say, well, Chris, you know, how can cold or raw food affect my stomach and my spleen? And my answer is that, well, if you look at it, your body operates at about 98.5 degrees. Most people does anyways. And if you put something from the refrigerator, on average, it's about 54, 55 degrees. And when you put that cold drink or that cold salad into your stomach, then your stomach has to heat it up to 98.5 degrees to be able to assimilate it. This creates inflammation. Now this liver, going back to the liver, this liver rests on top of the stomach. Guess what? That cold actually penetrates from the stomach into the liver, and this also will contribute to the dysfunction. So we know the obvious things diet-wise, like avoiding sugars, processed foods, genetically modified foods. You know, we're seeing a lot of cases of autism and ADD and ADHD, and it's not by accident that there's been so much manipulation done with the food. The other thing too is try to eat foods that are in season. So when you go to your farmer's market, or if you eat an organic, then what you want to do is pay attention to what's in season, because the fruits and vegetables that are in season are in season because God, the all-knowing, the universe, the all-knowing, is wise enough, obviously, to understand that during certain periods of the year, certain organs are more prone to disease. So like right now we're in the winter months, so we should be eating more soups, and we should be sleeping longer too. So going back to this as being an exhaustion disease, making sure that during the winter months that you sleep up until after sunrise, or you rise after sunrise, and this is a good time to do some Qigong practices. If in the summer months it's different because the days are longer, so you want to wake up before sun rises. So some of the foods you can eat that will help to benefit your spleen and pancreas are sweet potatoes and yams. All the squashes, right now the squashes are in season. Oatmeal, oats, basmati rice, you know, the energetic flavor of the spleen. What the spleen likes is it likes things that are naturally sweet. And the telltale sign that there's something going on with your stomach and spleen is if you crave carbs, if you crave sugar, well, the spleen is knocking on your back door saying, look, fix me, I need some help here. But what it doesn't want is it does not want the processed foods. It does not want the carbs. It does not want the sugars. What it really wants is things that are naturally sweet. And some of the foods I just listed fall into that category. And if you're somebody who's craving sweets, a remedy in order to help to offset that craving is that maybe have a piece of lean red meat cooked inside the fridge and heat that up and chew on that. Have a bowl of oatmeal with some sugar-free almond milk. Another remedy you can do too, because the liver likes things that are sour, is you could go ahead and if you're craving something sweet, then go ahead and have a glass of pure lime juice. Now it's going to be very sour, but the whole idea here is for that sour flavor to cancel out the craving for the sweet tooth. Okay, so there are things you can do to remedy this. And if you do the sour thing as well, then what you're doing too is you can also help to promote weight loss if you're somebody that wants to shed a few pounds. Now, a couple of other things you can do, and that is check out our links below. We have this Nfinity Progress product called the Earth Element, and the Earth Element represents your stomach and spleen. And what's great about this formula here is that it's not contraindicated with anything. It's safe for everybody to use, and it's something that is going to help to build your energy. Because once again, your blood is your energy, and your spleen and your pancreas is really responsible for helping, as a contributing factor, anyways, for having that happen. So this formula is just is a really simple formula. You can do follow the directions, and take 2 to 3 tablets 3 times a day with warm water. You can take with food or without food. And my father, they used to call this formula abundant energy. Like I said, my father unfortunately suffers from diabetes, and he used food as an emotional crutch. And so when he get emotionally upset about something, instead of drinking or going out and gambling, he'd go and eat, and he would eat a lot. And then eventually his body said, you know what, Jim, we're going to start to shut things down on you. But anyways, we give him this formula, and it's amazing how simple it is. You'll notice it probably after the first week or two, the difference in your energy. You may not notice it right away because it's not like drinking a caffeinated drink or drinking a cup of coffee. No, this is dealing with the source that helps to produce the blood to begin with. So this is a good product. Another one that you check out our link below is this hemp oil from Prime My Body. Now, as practitioners, licensed practitioners, we're not allowed to carry anything with THC in it at our clinic. So this has very, very, very minute amounts, and this is what we also give to my father as well too. We also give to our clients, but the caretaker does 3 little squirts. My wife said to do it on camera, so 3 little squirts. I'm going to call it 3 little shots underneath my tongue. If I get this thing to open, there we go. Wonderful. Now, normally what I do is I let it sink in sublingually underneath my tongue, hold it there. And what's amazing is that my dad's blood sugar, I think, because the combination of both of these, and obviously the caretaker's paying attention to diet too, but when we started administering these 2 products, a noticeable difference in his energy, a noticeable difference in his blood sugar, and even his primary physician is always shocked when he's like, wow, his blood sugar is maintaining, and he's 73 years old. So that's a good thing. Now, because my foundation of Chinese medicine is in Qigong, the practice of Qigong itself, a simple practice to do is number 1 is the Hu sound, and I'm going to talk about that, and then also 2 other practices. One is called massaging the yang organs, and then the other one is this movement that benefits the spleen and the pancreas. Now, emotionally, I talked about too much stress and anger and resentment, how that affects your liver and your gallbladder, which then invades and penetrates into the stomach and weakens the spleen. But also the negative emotions of worry, anxiety, over intellectualizing things too much, are also emotions that will weaken your spleen and your pancreas. Now, this is something that comes up, like which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did the worry and the anxiety cause the underlying spleen dysfunction? Or did the poor diet and environment actually was the contributing factor to the dysfunction by itself? Well, it doesn't really matter in this case. What we're after now, though, is we're after things that we can do in order to build the strength of the spleen. And the healing sound for the spleen is Hu, like if you have an upset stomach. So what you do with this practice to make it into a mindfulness practice. Now, the spleen is a pretty good sized organ, about the size of an orange or a small grapefruit, located on the left side of the body. And what's great is that you can imagine the color yellow, because the color yellow-orange is associated with the stomach and spleen. And what you can do is you can actually inhale and breathe into the left quadrant of your body. Now, you don't have to know exactly where the organ is. Believe it or not, just with your mind intent, your mind will guide the chi to the organ. And then to make it into more of a mindfulness practice, what you do then is you go ahead and focus on emotional things, past or present, that are creating anxiety or worry for you. And so let's say I'm worried about an upcoming event. Then what I do is I focus on it. Who's involved? What is the situation? And then what next? I would inhale, pull in the breath, and the yellow cloud into the left side of the body, and exhale. Imagine that circumstance leaving like a dark cloud. Doing this over and over again. So I'd inhale again, You can actually hold on to the left side of your body if you want to as well, over the rib cage here. If you're in public and you know that you're anxious about something that's upcoming, or you're overthinking an event, maybe somebody said something to you and you're overplaying it in your head over and over and over again, obviously you're not going to probably be doing the who sound out loud. So then my recommendation then is then you go ahead and do the sound underneath your breath. And so it would sound like this. Inhale. And once again, as I'm exhaling, imagine that circumstance leaving like a dark cloud, going several feet away from the body and deep into the ground. Okay, so that's the first one. Now the next one is called massaging the yang organs. And so what's going to happen here is, I'm going to adjust the cameras. Hold on a second. So what's going to happen here is that the yang organs are your stomach, your large and small intestine, your gallbladder, and your bladder itself. So this is a great practice too. If you have an upset stomach, or if you have that knot, in fact, that's how you can tell if the energy is out of balance in the stomach, in the spleen, because you'll feel this knot in your stomach, because that's what happens to it when it's out of balance. So what you do is you'd focus on inhaling, bring the arms up. Imagine the golden cloud filling up into your abdomen, coming up from the ground as you inhale. Then as you exhale, just swinging back down. Inhale up and exhale. Now, as you exhale, you can imagine that the toxicity from those organs, the stomach, the large, small intestine, bladder, gallbladder, leave out through the bottom of the feet and enter down deep into the earth. Okay, so you can do this over and over again. You know, you can even walk and do this in the morning if you want. As the sun's rising, this is a great Qigong practice to do while you're walking. But once again, if you want to make it into more of a mindfulness practice, you would close your eyes. Inhale, imagine golden light filling up into the abdomen as you inhale, and then as you exhale, any toxicity, stomach upset, intestinal issues, imagine that leaving out through the bottom of the feet and down deep into the ground. Okay, so that's the first one. Now, a lot of times when I finish by doing a practice that I call pulling down the heavens 3 times. Okay, so second pull, third pull. Now the next practice here is that we're kind of like wringing out the organ, and this is the spleen move. This is also on our YouTube series, so please subscribe to our YouTube channel. So if you like what it is that I'm talking about here, please click the links below and subscribe. Anyways, this is also on the YouTube series itself, and what you go ahead and do is you would inhale. Once again, you'd focus on whatever is causing you anxiety and worry as you inhale. Or maybe it's the diabetes itself. And so what you would do is you'd howl or bark like a dog first and hope that the spleen and the pancreas will fix itself. And if not, you actually will do the movement. So 2 ways to do it. One way, a simple way to do it, is like you're holding a ball and you're going to shift your weight from left to right. Okay, and you're going to gaze at the palm. Now, like I said, the spleen is located over here, so it's like you're wringing out the organ. As we let go of the worry and the anxiety, guess what? The positive virtue of peace of mind and serenity comes in. All right, so that's the first way. Now, another way to go ahead and do this practice is you start off in your Wuji posture, and that's on another video. That's also on our YouTube channel, what the Wuji posture is. What you do is you imagine your fingers become like long, hollow straws, enter down deep into the ground, because we're talking about the earth element, Mother Earth. And what's going to happen is that we're going to inhale. Imagine golden light coming up from the earth, and then as you exhale, I'm going to find a pivot point. You know, if you're outside, you know, find a pivot point. If you're inside the house, if it's too cold outside, in the winter, you find a pivot point on the ceiling and just rotate your body around that. Once again, inhaling in the middle, exhale as you turn, and then what will happen is that you'll guide the mind intent into the stomach, spleen, and pancreas, helping to regulate the hormone of insulin, improve the function of the digestive function of the spleen and stomach. Okay, so here I inhale, and once again, if I want to focus on an event that's creating anxiety for me, I'd focus on that. And then as I exhale, as I turn, then I'll go ahead and allow that to release out through the bottom of the feet like a dark cloud, going several feet away from the body and deep into the ground. So some simple practices to do. And if you are somebody that's suffering from diabetes, I'd recommend going to the YouTube channel, and I'd recommend actually doing all the movements, because all the internal organs actually, they're all functioning properly, then they will contribute to how healthy your stomach and your spleen is. And just as we close here, besides these 3 practices, in order to increase the functionality of the stomach and spleen, try to avoid ice cold drinks, too much sugar, processed sugar. Pay attention to the foods that are in season, and be mindful while you eat. Do those Qigong practices. Click the link below and check out the 5 element herb, as well as like what I said. We use Prime My Body, the CBD oil that also helps. So from here in sunny San Jose, California, my lovely dogs, my fountain, my stomach and spleen, I bid you farewell until next time. I will see you later.